I'm starting the recording now. Pull up the chat. Okay, excellent. Seems like we're stabilizing. So, just in the interest of time, make sure that we have enough time for John's presentation and Q&A as needed. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Dalton Byers. I'm with the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support, and I'll be the moderator and technical support for this webinar today. If you have any questions, John will have times throughout the presentation for Q&A, and I believe at the end as well. So feel free to drop them in chat, or at that time, I believe you can unmute. I have the closed captions on. You can turn those on with your toolbar on Zoom, and the Zoom is being recorded, so please keep that in mind as you unmute or mute and have your camera on or off. If you need to step away, we understand. Be sure to turn your camera off and things of that sort. And the recording will be made available sometime after as we kind of figure out how to disseminate that well. So that is all I have for now. John, take it away.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And thank you all for um, uh, coming today. My name is John Barr. I'm with the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity within our Office of Employment and Training. So I see some familiar names on the list there, some new folks as well. So again, thank you for being a grantee partner with us. Today's presentation is very much focused on the technical aspects of financial reporting. And so we're going to walk through our grant reporting system, walk through how to log on, create your IDs, and enter information. And so here is our agenda for the day. And we will provide these slides to everyone who registered today. So we're going to go ahead and provide you an overview of our grant reporting system. We're going to talk about how to create a what's called a RACF, RACFID. That's your ID to access our mainframe grant reporting system. We're going to talk about, coming into the 2020s and creating an Illinois digital ID. That's primarily for security purposes and kind of that identity verification that the state is requiring. And then finally, after we get through all of the security and access issues, we're going to go and walk through, the guts of cost reporting procedures and then cash request procedures. So really, it is a focus on, the technical aspects of getting into our financial reporting systems. So this grant reporting system, as you'll see, and as if you've utilized the system before, you'll know that it's an old school mainframe system, and you kind of have to go back to the future into the 80s to when the system was actually created. That's 1980s. As far as a system for the Department of Commerce, DECA at the time, where creating a reporting system that has been fairly solid over the years, and it allows us to report costs, request cash, and send obligations over to the state comptroller's office so you as a grantee, can get paid for the work that you're doing. As we moved into the new millennium and the the 2020s here, GRS requires additional authentications because of the risks. You are being allowed as grantees access to our mainframe system, and that is a pretty significant security risk, if you will. Don't want to provide that to the general public. And so, in working with our Department of Innovation and Technology, we've identified some methods where we can balance the security risk versus your need and our need to get information about the grant and report costs and request cash. And so it does require two identification, so two IDs, two passwords. So right at the outset, I'll say that it is. I wish that there was an ability to have a single sign-on in the future. That may be the case when we move to a new grant management system, but for the foreseeable future, within the next at least 1 to 3 years, I would anticipate we'll be utilizing this grant reporting system within the Department of Commerce. So, um, the first big picture step is to get yourself a authorized identification number for our grant reporting system, and that's that RACF number. And so, to do this, we have to identify you as a authorized grantee contact, and you have to work with your grant manager to create a external access request form. And that form looks like this. And again, you'd work with our grant manager and put the reason in the program that you're working on, and they will create a RACF ID for you. As you're filling this out, obviously this is kind of the department's address, and connect with your grant manager to help you fill this form out. It's important to note that the person who is assigned to the ID, to that RACF ID, should be the person who will be accessing the system to report expenditures and requesting the cash. And so you just don't, if within your organization you have a financial management staff or manager that is responsible for taking care of your books, your fiscal management reporting, that would ideally be the person who should have this access, as opposed to perhaps like a program manager who is, seeing the actual day-to-day activity. So again, it depends on how your organization is set up. Um, Many times, and we'll go through it on some of the slides, because this is a secure system. There are features where if you don't log in within a certain period of time, it will lock your ID, or every 30 days it will request or require you to change your password. And so, being in the system very often, it is a somewhat common instance where you have to have your RACF ID reset. And to do that, you simply send an email to our ceo.racfsecurity@illinois.gov and just say, state your name and your RACF ID number, and tell them what you're working with, and ask them to please reset your RACF ID. Once they do that, they will send you an email back that will look very much like this. It will talk, or it will direct you to go to this website to change your password. And I would just note for your information that passwords have to be exactly 8 characters. They have to have an alpha and a numeric, as well as a special character. And that your password can't start with one of those special characters. You have to change it every 30 days. You shouldn't, put abbreviations of the months. That will bounce it, and you can't reuse your passwords. And accounts will be locked after 3 unsuccessful logins. So some pretty standard security features that I'm assuring many of you are experienced with other sites, professionally and personally. So that's the creating a mainframe ID number. I'm going to pause there, make sure that there aren't any questions. And I see just some everyone saying hello. So that's great. Any questions on that first part?
Yeah, I got a question.
Yeah, go
Uh,
ahead.
yeah, so you say the GIS, the password needed to be updated every 30 days.
Yep.
So would it be like auto pop like if my password set up like last maybe August the 10th, today is September 11th, it's
Mhm.
automatic will ask me to reset password or I
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
oh
It will. So if you try to log in, it will tell you that your password is expired.
okay.
And so
Got
it'll
you.
tell you you have to go and update your password.
Got you. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. And I should say, if you access, I'm going to go through the screens where you can actually go and you'll see like the mainframe system. It will most likely populate a message saying password expired. It may even write on the GRS screen. It may um, even have a space where it says change your password. You want to make sure that you go to this website that is shown here on slide 10, right? So don't change your password in the GRS mainframe. So this link actually is it's a web page link, and this is where you want to change your password, okay? So it's a little bit like with everything with GRS, there's a lot of unique features to it. But again, just maybe make a note for yourself. Follow page 10 as it relates to changing and updating your password.
John, I have a question.
Yeah.
This is Sabrina from Reset. So the rack ID, we've been certainly in the grant journey for a while. So the rack ID is still the same as the password, right?
No, actually, you have a RACF ID, and that so it's typically um, your RACF ID is typically starts with MHD and then four
Yeah,
numbers.
correct.
That's your RAC ID, and then you have a password that is unique to you. Well, actually, your number is unique to you, right?
Right.
But then you also have a password that is associated with that.
Okay. Yeah. I got that. That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Great. That's a great question, and thank you for bringing it up because that should be known, right? So, like when for those of you who are new grantees who don't have a RAC FID number, your RAC FID will start with MHD and then four numbers, and then you'll have your own password with that.
Hi, John. I have a question.
Yeah.
Tammy Yarbrough here from AACF. How are you?
Yeah.
Nice to
Doing
see you.
well. Good to
I
see you
know, long
or hear
time.
you. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So I just need to review the reports of that submitted in
Mhm.
there because I have to send reports each month to
Okay.
JTech, and
Yeah.
I'm not able to view it for some reason. I keep getting error messages. I'm able to get in there and sign in, but I'm not able to see what was submitted.
Okay. Well, let's get to that maybe towards the end because I think I have a screen. When you say see the report, I'm assuming you're talking about the costs that have been reported during
Yes.
a time period. And so we will
Yes.
get to those slides towards the end.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, this is Kim from OEI. I just wanted to reiterate a question that was asked right before. So we currently already have a MHD number, and you're
Yep.
saying that won't change.
Correct. That will not change. And again, thank you for that question because for existing grantees who have a RACF ID number, um, you don't need to do this step, right? So if you already have an MHD RACF ID, all the slides that we just showed you, you're good to go. You have completed kind of big step one, right? Now you may have to go if you haven't had access to the system in a while because the system has had some technical problems, some pretty major
Right.
technical problems. You probably will need to go in and update your RACF ID and reset it with a new password.
Yeah, I did have to do that this morning.
Yeah, good.
One last question, and tell me if I'm moving too fast. So I did go in to try to get the digital ID,
Uh-huh.
and then I was a little stumped because it was asking for personal information.
Yep.
However, I just heard you say that it should be related to one person in the organization.
Yeah, and so let me move to that next part of the session here because I think those questions may be answered as we go forward. Um, and I'm logged in myself, and it, as many of you know, it times out after um not that long. So just give me 1 second here. All right, very good. So I'm gonna just flip back to the slides, and again, we'll have more time um, for questions as we go, but I want to make sure we have enough time to get through the slides. So we talked about, okay, first major step was to, if you're brand new, you don't have a RECF number, get that done. If you have a RECF ID number, make sure you go and update the password so you're good to go. All right. Major step number 2 is to create yourself an Illinois digital ID. This is now, because of the cybersecurity concerns, this is now required to access our mainframe. And so the state is, this is, again, for many of the different state systems, not only our mainframe, but others, will require you to create a trusted ID. And so step 1 is to go to this URL. And step 2 is to click on this Get a Digital ID. Step 3 is there'll be this click on Enroll for PKI Digital ID. And then scroll all the way down in the page to click Illinois Resident Accept button. Again, you should read through the pages as well because it talks about, hey, you're accessing sensitive state of Illinois information, and it should be used for the intended purpose, and you shouldn't try to hack into the system, and so on and so forth. And if you do, bad things will happen. And so you're certifying that you're going to use it for the intended purpose of managing your grants. And so you click on the Illinois Resident Accept button. Now, please note that if you're a non-Illinois resident, I know we have many grantees who may live on the border in border states. Um, you will have to complete these next steps utilizing the paper form, and unfortunately, you'll have to get that notarized. And so it kind of highlights the importance of verifying who you are, and I guess the importance of us allowing you as a grantee to have access. So we're again, we're trying to balance the security needs with our trust in you as grantee partners to access sensitive state databases. And so, as noted just a minute ago, we are asking for very sensitive information. And when we say we, it's not the Department of Commerce. This is in a database that is with the Department of Innovation Technology. They are the IT um, department within the state of Illinois. So for the Department of Revenue, Human Services, Department of Commerce, they are our IT department, and they maintain this information securely. They are utilizing your state ID or driver's license to validate your identity. And it's important to point out that the information that you input into this screen in step 5 must match precisely with your identification, or it will not validate. And again, these are screens Department of Innovation Technology. It includes license and weight and some other fields. Kind of curious what they chose, but that's what they've chosen. So again, just please make sure that it is consistent with your ID. Then once you have input all of that, the system will ask you to enter an email address and create a username and password. Once you do that, you click on next. Write that information down in your secured, where you keep your passwords, and then then it will ask you additional security questions, and please note that you won't be required to answer these security questions when you try to log in the future. So again, all of this activity is part of kind of the Illinois Digital ID, kind of like the setup process. You won't have to go through this whole thing every time. Is the point there? So that was the process of creating or requesting a state of Illinois digital ID. Any questions about that?
Yep, it's Kim again, from OAI. So yeah, once we go ahead and we set it up, how does that play a part in our monthly login to GRS?
Yeah, you're feeding me like oh wait, there's more. That is part 3 of our presentation.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna listen.
No worries. Thank you. All right. So then, so Kim, thank you again for prompting in the next part. So, oops, I'm going the wrong way. So now we're gonna use that. Now we have our RAC FID, we have our State of Illinois Digital ID. Now we're gonna finally get to the logging on to the grant reporting system. And so, after you got your state digital ID, the site will show several links. You're going to want to type in your username and your password for that Illinois digital ID, and click on login, and then you're going to find the link that has web 3270 mainframe access, or it may just say simply web 3270. And you can see that it is on this screen, it's on the right hand side. So you click that link, and then the digital ID login may show up again. So again, enter in your state digital ID number and password and log on. And then it's finally going to get you to the GRS system, where a login will pop up and it will ask you for your DCEO RAC FID, and you'll type in your MHD number and your password. Now, it's important to note during this process, you should know, you should write down your passwords in a very secure place. I know that security experts say, oh, you shouldn't have a book of passwords, but it's important to note that you shouldn't save have the computer you're working on, your browser, save your password, because if you do this, we have found that it will cause system errors. Sometimes it'll let you work, but in many times it caused errors. So we're advising everyone not to have your system like auto save your passwords there. So again, write it down securely. Both your RACF ID, which is always key, your current password, as well as your state of Illinois digital ID and your password. So keep those secure. So finally, after you've so again, you've kind of like you got into the state system. So you went through the first main entrance door. Now you're going to walk down the hall to the GRS site, and you're going to have to put in your RACF password. So you did that. So here we are. We're finally to the GRS door. And after your password is accepted, this following screen will show up. And so you'll see this do it. Kind of looks like a weird Pac-Man kind of deal. But so once you get to this screen, you're going to go to the bottom left-hand corner, and you're going to see that there is a single white dash. You're going to click your cursor on that dash, and you're going to type IMSH. Okay? IMSH on this dash. And then once you hit
John,
enter,
quick question. IMSH, it does not have to be capitalized, right?
It does not. It does
Okay.
not. That's right. That's right. Once you type enter, this additional login screen will pop up, and you can see it will be asking for user ID and password. And this is where you type in MHD and then your your 4 numbers, and then your password, and then enter. Once the password is accepted, you will see this screen, and at the top line where that white cursor is, you'll click on that white line and you will key in /4HDGRS and then hit enter. From there,
Is there a space in between those two words?
yes.
Okay.
And then from there,
Wait, John, one more question. So when you hit enter, does the little cursor have to still be on the S, or can it be?
It can be. It can be. Yeah. It should. It should. Doesn't have to be on the S.
Okay.
From there, you will get to the kind of the expenditure reporting and cash request menu. And this is where we're finally going to get down to business. Okay. So what I've just shown you is all of the login requirements. That's kind of part 1, 2, and 3 of the session today. Are there any questions? Actually, let me just do one more slide. Okay. So this screen is what you want to see to do the business of expenditure reporting and cash requests. Okay. Everything prior to that was just the login. Now, we went through both the creation and the login process. And I want to point out that slide 24 here kind of gives you a 4-step process of, once everything is finally created, you've got your RACF ID number, your MHD number, it's all reset, you're good to go there. You got your digital ID and you've logged in once already, okay? Then slide 24 would be the one that I would earmark and say, okay, every month I'm going to follow these 4 steps, right? I'm going to click on the state of Illinois digital ID at this web address. I'm going to click on Web 3270. A login ID box will pop up for you to enter your digital ID, your Illinois digital ID and password. A second login box will pop up, ask you for the GRS mainframe. So enter in your MHD and password, and you should get to this screen. So it will be hopefully much more straightforward than the registration process. And so again, slide 24 really is our hope, the kind of the more simplified login procedures once everything is set up. That'll make sense.
Yeah, and that's the question that I was going to ask. Like, is that something we would have to do every month, all those steps? But okay, this was answered it. That page 24 is our little Bible, our little savior.
Yeah.
And so I didn't. So this will come on the packet that you're going to send out after the meeting with these slides, because I don't see that in the how to access GRS that was sent out like
Yeah.
prior.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you will see if any of you have reviewed the PDF, they were more of like on a Word document. You'll see many of these screens are very similar. So I have taken those screenshots and those instructions, but just put them into this presentation in a different way. But again, hopefully all of that registration will get you to this more simplified access point.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
John, it's Crystal.
Hey, Crystal.
I've answered a couple of questions in the chat, but then Rebecca is asking, can you share the link to get the access to the new GRS login if we previously went through the ID setup process?
This is Rebecca. My question was just answered. Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
No problem. Yep. So again, just highlight slide 24, go to this link, Web 3270. I don't know what that stands for, but it gets us there. So, all right. Any other questions? And I should also note that these procedures are subject to change. I don't mean to laugh, but we've tested these with some of our other formula grantees, and it has seemed to been fairly stable over the last couple of weeks and couple months, actually. And so, as we identify bugs or other issues, we'll provide you with additional information and updates to the procedures. All right. So now that we have gotten our foot into the door of the system, we're now going to talk about expenditure reporting. And so for those of you who have accessed the system previously, it's going to look a little bit different, but many of the concepts are the same. And actually the screens themselves are the same, but they may appear to look different. So just some basics to start off. Department of Commerce requires grantees to report grant expenditures monthly, or department or our Office of Employment and Training. We ask you to use GRS to report the costs. Grantees can report costs more than once a month if that's appropriate. Your costs that you report in GRS should tie back to your accounting system, and you must maintain supporting documentation for all costs reported as part of our annual our annual monitoring and our kind of continued oversight of the grant. Those are some basics. Typically, our expenditures for each month should be entered by the 20th of the following month. So in other words, if you're going to be reporting the costs that you incurred in August, you should report those costs by September 20th, or the system will automatically lock you out and will make you report them into the next month. And so that's just kind of we give everybody about 3 weeks to report their costs from the previous month.
John, I have a question. This is Gina from MDC. I've been sending a bunch of questions. So what if I've been trying to submit on the 20th, but it keeps telling me that I'm not authorized?
Yeah.
What am I to do on that report?
Yeah. So if you are in the system and it is telling you that you are not able to report the costs or you're not able to certify the costs, if that's the error message, then we probably need to look at your RACF credentials and make sure that you have that authorization. If you're into the system and into the screens that I'm going to show you, and the system sends you an error back saying you're not authorized, then you have a credential problem.
Okay, yeah, because I can get all the way through until I get ready to try to do cash requests. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Hi, John. This is Sabrina, and I see somebody else has the same question that I have.
Sure.
We've not submitted for a couple of months because of the system. So is it going to?
We're going to catch up. We understand that the system has had some delays, and so just put the cost in as soon as feasible. So ideally, if you can get them in the next 9 days, we understand that there may be a backlog of reports or costs to report. So just get them in as soon as feasible. We're from a monitoring standpoint, we're going to give you some flexibility, around that as we catch up.
John, this is Kim from OAI again. So I have a question about the reporting. So right before GRS went down, we were able to do a advance. So we had money, thank God, but the costs weren't reported in GRS, and we sent our quarterly by email. So do I now need to go in and enter those costs?
Yeah, you should go. You should do a check, and we're going to show you the screen to check to see the kind of your budget versus cost reported, and so those should be up to date from grant start date to now. Those should be it would be a good opportunity to make sure that those are up to date and that you have any applicable costs reported. And if you want to make a note on your quarterly report, especially our fiscal monitors are aware of the disruption, but if you want to make an additional note for documentation's sake, that certainly is appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. All right. So I'm going to just move to the next part here. So this is the actual process of reporting your costs. And again, for those of you who have utilized GRS before, it's a different interface. And so you're no longer utilizing your mouse, you're utilizing your keyboard. Okay. So at the top screen, so again, when you get into, you're going to see this screen when you come in, right? It's going to say enter the grant number to be processed, and it's going to have that white, cursor. So you enter in your grant number here, and then you utilize the function keys, right? And so you're going to put in the grant number, and if you are cost reporting, you're going to click on F1, and so those are those keys here, right at the top of your keyboard, and then this type of screen is going to obviously it will have your grant number, the grant, the name of the grantee, and then you'll see that you'll have the expenditure code and the budget line item description will populate. So in the previous system, I think that there was some limitations around you had to know the expenditure code for the line item you were inputting. And so now it's actually, I think, a little bit better where you can see the actual budget line item. The budget expenditure codes and line items should follow the order of your budget in your grant agreement, but sometimes there's some glitches where it doesn't. So just keep an eye out to make sure that you're entering the costs on the correct budget line item. And so again, you're going to be utilizing your function keys to navigate forward and backwards through your budget, right? So if you didn't have any personnel costs, and let's say you didn't have any benefits costs, but let's say that you had some consultant costs, you would have to click the F8 button through all the screens until you saw that budget line item for consultant. So once you find the right budget line item, then it will give you two options, right? So because we're before the 20th of the month, you will see that it will ask, well, do you want to report these as August costs or do you want to report these as September costs? And so for many of you, you'll be reporting last month's costs, and so you'd be selecting that August. And so you would just simply use your keyboard to type in the value or the amount of those costs. It's important to note, and we'll say on this slide, or this slide emphasizes that when you enter the actual costs, you have to enter the decimal places with the cents. If you don't, the system will put the decimal points and will most likely create an error in all of your calculations. So, for example, if I wanted to report $5,000 in personnel costs, I would need to put 5000.0, right? If I didn't, if I just put 5000, it would think I was only entering 500 because it would do 50.0. So again, just make sure you enter in the cents. If you mess up, I'm going to show you a slide on how you can fix it. But so the process of entering your costs is to work your way through all of your budget line items, add the values to those budget lines, and then when you're all done, you're going to go to the expenditure summary and review, and then ultimately certifying your costs. So again, once all the costs have been entered, you click the F1 button on your keyboard, and it will transfer you to this expenditure summary and certification screen. So I've blacked out the grant number, and it's difficult because I didn't want to report costs for this grantee, but I will. You would expect to see, if you put in that $5,000 in costs, you would expect to see them listed here on that uncertified cost row. So you could work down the budget lines and you can see basically everything that you entered, double check, make sure that looks correct. If it does look correct, you would hit the F2 button. And again, you're using your keyboard. If you click on F2, it's not going to do anything. So use your keyboard to type in F2, and then you'll get a note. Well, and once that happens, it will say costs have been certified. You'll get a note up here saying costs have been certified. Now, if you see after you go through this row, if you look at all of your costs and you see, uh-oh, I messed up. The system actually thought I meant $500 in personnel costs, and I'm at 5,000, you can go back to the entry screens by clicking on F4. So if you F4, it'll take you back here, and then you'll actually see the system will show in this line, it will show like the 500 here. And what you could do is you can just do the math to fix it. You can put 4,500.00, and then you can hit the F1, and you would see that the system would update that to 5,000, and then you can go ahead, verify all your lines again, click on F2, and you certify, and you're good to go as far as your costs. Now, we understand that entering your costs is kind of the first step that most of you are worried about. The second step is to get paid for the activity. So that is um, the next set of screens that we're going to show. So from this review screen, after you certified those costs, you actually can click on the F5. So press F5 on your keyboard, and it will take you to the cash request screens. So before we get into cash requests, I want to make sure that there weren't any questions about the cost reporting.
John, this is Sabrina. So, if I'm doing 2 to 3 months to get caught up,
Yep.
I go to each month and populate it, right?
You're only gonna it will only let you go back to the August line. So you're just gonna have, so if you have costs from June, July, August to
Okay.
enter, add all of those up and put them into the August line. And
Okay.
then, when you do your reporting, you might want to put a journal entry that, note, costs were reported in the GRS system all in August due to, system errors, due to
Okay.
GRS system errors, something like that.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Sure.
John, it's Crystal again.
Yeah.
Just a general note, we've been receiving something, and I call it down on the status line at the very bottom of the screen. It doesn't happen every time, but if the system gives you an X down there and says wait, that's exactly what you have to do. That happened to me this morning. So nothing's wrong. Just wait the system out, and it should proceed to where you're trying to go.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thanks. Yeah, it was doing some weird stuff for me too. So,
yes. We have one other question in the chat asking again if you can show how to lower the cost.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's a great point. And yeah, I was just thinking of that question. I'm like, I didn't cover, well, what happens, I talked about what happens if you needed to add money to a line, but what happens if you have to subtract, right? So so at the end of the entry, so again, let's say that I let's say that I inadvertently put $50,000 in personnel costs instead of 5. I added an extra 0, right? So I would go through and I'm going to hit my F1 and see, I'm like, oh, I have $45,000 too much in personnel. So I would see August costs 50,000. So what I would do is I would put 45,000 in new costs, 0.00, and then at the end I would put a minus. So the minus sign will subtract. And then so once I hit the minus, I can go back, follow my process, hit the F1. Once I hit the F1, hopefully the system will do the math, and instead of 50,000 here, it will subtract out the 45, and I'll have 5,000 in costs. So thanks for that question. Any others on just reporting costs? We're coming in the home stretch for cash requests then. All right. So this is, this is finally the pot of gold at the end of our reporting rainbow here. So grantees use GRS to electronically request cash. The cash requests require approval from DCEO accounting and our program office. And cash requests are typically approved on a reimbursement basis. Our office, I will review cash requests. Crystal will review, and Josh Coons will review cash requests. The system will calculate and also prohibit us from approving excess cash versus what grantees have reported. And so when you receive your grant agreements, you will see some grantees are allowed up to a 20% advance of the grant funds, and that gets coded into your grant in GRS. It's important to note that the cash advance processes and procedures have evolved over the years. So some longtime grantees, you'll note that we used to just kind of, it is just allowed and no documentation around it. Well, for a number of reasons, the department and the state have tightened that up a bit and now requests some additional justification and documentation. Hopefully, your grant managers have walked you through this at the point of your grant establishment, requesting this cash advance workbook. I'm not going to spend a ton of time, but again, your grant managers can provide you with this detail about, although the grant agreement says it is up to 20%, we still require, the department comptroller require an advance letter asking for the funds, and then also to provide us with a breakout of those costs at a high level. You're not held to the penny, and it's not like your cash flow analysis is going to be audited or even monitored. But if it's way out of whack, we'll question it. Grant managers will question it. So it should just show a general. It should provide a general assessment of your cash flow needs. All right, so moving to the cash request processing, we typically, for our formula grants, we will review for formula on Mondays. And because of the complexities of requesting cash from the federal government as well, because we have to draw the cash from the feds, we then flow the cash down to you grantees on federally funded grants. So we only process on Mondays. For others, we also will process typically Wednesday or Thursday. Holidays may impact processing. As I mentioned, it's a couple different areas have to review the cash requests. And so once the cash requests are approved by DCEO, the vouchers are processed and sent over to the comptroller's office for payment, and then the comptroller will make payments using a check, paper check, or electronic file transfer. All right, and so here's the procedures on the cash request. And so again, remember we said, okay, when you input your costs, if you want to go right to the cash request screen, remember you're gonna certify those costs with F2, and then you can hit F5 to transfer to the cash request screen. Alternative, if I've already entered my costs, I want to just go to, if you typed in from the main screen here, you could type in your grant number, and you could do F3 cash requests. Okay, so a couple different ways of navigating around. So so we got to this screen, right? We got to the cash request screen either by hitting F5 or going right from the main menu, and you're going to see that your grant number will show up, your grantee, your total grant amount, and then again, the system hard code the amount available. So that may be that 20%, or it may be based on the amount 20% plus the amount of costs you've reported would typically be our cap that is listed there. Okay, so you'll see that. You'll see if this is 0 and you put a cash request in here, it's going to bounce on you. It's going to say, sorry, you don't have enough costs reported. So you're going to have to go back in and report the costs. So go ahead and you type in the number, the value of cash you're requesting. Again, make sure you utilize that decimal point, or it will, if you think you're requesting 5,000 and you put 5000, it will think you are saying 500 again, or even 50, depending on what it does. And you have to if that happens, actually, and it does, I've been there. You go ahead and you can void that cash requests. You can void a pending request, and then start over. But if the request has already gone through one of the approval stages, you'll have to tell your grant manager, and we will just deny the request. And once the request is denied, you can go ahead and enter in a new request. So again, the process, you type in the value of the amount you want, you click on the F2 on your keyboard. Again, certify process the cash request. This next screen is the cash request tracking. So if you want to see like, okay, all of the money that you have requested, you can go to this 354 screen and type in your grant number. And again, you can see where somebody went in, they thought they were requesting 8,500, but the system only, and they didn't put the decimal there. So you can see where that happens. And what they did is they just voided that request. And this is also, once you're on this screen, this is kind of an advanced feature, right? If you click on F1 from this screen, you'll be able to see if the comptroller's office has issued a warrant. And so this is a good screen because you can see like where your cash request is at in the process. And finally, there was a question much earlier in the presentation about, well, all I want to do is go in and verify, validate the information that the team has put into this system. So I want to verify their costs. And so this is the key screen. This is really an important screen for us as grant managers and monitors. It's the 362 screen. And so to access this screen, and I should also say to access this cash request tracking screen, you're going to want to go from, oops, I'm sorry, I'm making you dizzy. You're going to want to go from this main screen, right? You can type in that grant number, and then you can click on, for this last screen on the last slide, on this F6, the sub-grantee cost ledger summary. Okay, so again, from the main menu, put in the grant number, click on your keyboard, click on F6, and it will show you this screen. So it'll have your grant number, the budget line items, the budget, and the reported costs to date. So that's in real time from the start of the grant to the date that you hit enter, and it'll show the balance of funds available. And finally, we encourage all grantees to set up direct deposit. Here is the link to do that with the state comptroller's office. Actually, I think you have to call and set that up and provide maybe some hard copy documentation. So with that, I think we have a whole 30 seconds for any final questions, but I'll be happy to stick on if others have any specific questions.
John, I got a quick question. Will this be sent out to everyone that had reservations? Because I wasn't on the original email. This is Kim from OAI. So, but I did get a reservation confirmation. So I'm just making sure I can get the slides.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely send out the slides to the larger list, and then grant managers will have the slides, and we'll be able to tell you where the recording is at as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
John, it's Crystal again. If they decide that they need to void out a cash request, it's probably a good idea to send that to the CEO.oet grants email and include the grant manager on there as a recipient. And that way, if the grant manager is not in the office at that moment, someone from our larger group could take care of that void on your behalf.
Yep. That's a great point. Thank you. And again, I mean, I should have introduced Crystal at the beginning. Crystal is with our trade unit, also helps with our formula and other grants, and is great as far as her years and years of experience with both fiscal and programmatic management, and is a great help, along with Josh Coons, who's on our formula side, who also helps a lot of the GRS and financial management responsibilities. So thanks for that. Okay. Any other questions, or I should say final questions? All right, great. Well, thank you all for coming. And as always, if you have difficulties, definitely reach out to your grant manager for assistance, and we will get connected. We appreciate all the work that you do on the different projects, and wish you all a great afternoon. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.